Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you something I think is kind of cool. It's how to make a magnetic removable faceplate for an Iron Man helmet, or really any helmet you want to apply this method to, and it can be used really on any other part of like cosplay armor. And all it's going to be doing is utilizing these cool little purse clasp snap magnets, and they're these self-centering magnets that lock into place, and they have a good amount of little shear force to them. So if you try to push and pull them like that, they're gonna not want to come off. But then when you pull them directly apart from each other, they separate. And that's what I'm using to actually make the little magnetic connections on this. And again, these can be used pretty much in a multitude of ways. But what I want to be showing you is how I'm using these magnets and a bunch of leftover like print raft material to then mold and shape your own little brackets and get them to line up. So these are the tabs and brackets that I made for this helmet. You can see they kind of sit off on the top, and they can be positioned in a multitude of places, and then you have the little receptacle sitting on the back of the face mask there. So when you line it back up, it goes back in, and that's it. Now this is not how to make the wireless faceplate. And what I mean by that is in one of my videos I showed that you can make the faceplate come on and off, and every time you connect it, the eyes light up. That's in another video that I'm going to be filming right after this, and they should go up pretty close to each other. So make sure you watch that one if you want to learn how to make the faceplate basically wireless, and when you actually lock it into the magnets, then the eyes instantly come on. For this quick little tutorial, I'm going to be using the Mark 85 version 1 helmet on Thingiverse. This is actually the same helmet that's part of the giveaway that's running right now. So if you're watching this before May 15th, 2020, make sure you check out the other video about being able to win this helmet for free. And if it's past that, congratulations to the winner. So you're really only going to need a couple things to do this. First, you're going to want to get your hands on these magnets, and they're super cheap. You get a pack of 10 for a couple bucks, and they come in a couple different sizes. You can get them this kind of normal standard size like that. You can see the little difference. And for this, we're going to be using the bigger ones because we want a little bit of a better bonding. And we're going to need 2 of them. So we'll grab 2. A razor or a pair of scissors helps. And you can use a heat gun, but I like to use a lighter just because it's a little bit quicker to work. I don't have to turn the heat gun on and off, on and off. And this way you guys can hear me. Be careful with this. Please don't burn yourself. You can also utilize just normal magnets. These are just some standard neodymium magnets that are actually pretty powerful. You got to get a little bit more creative with this, and I'll talk about how you could actually use these later because you can't just melt these into the raft. A soldering iron or a 3D pen, but I really like using a soldering iron for this because it just makes it a lot easier. And then like some tape. So I save all my leftover raft material, and if you don't have wasted raft material from your prints, if you're not printing with rafts, go ahead and just get some, print one. Drop a benchy onto the build plate, select raft, and make your raft margin like 200 millimeters. That's how I'll actually go and just print raft plates that I can then cut up and use in like little projects and stuff. So it's almost just like a piece of paper you can mess with. You can also alter the raft thickness and actually get an even thinner raft to print out that you can just bend and mold even better. So I save all my raft prints, and this gives me a lot of little brackets to work with. So for this, we'll probably use... So the first thing I'll do is I'll kind of cut up little squares, and these can be as clean or as, you know, messed up as you want. So I don't know, I'd say these are like 1 inch by 1.5 inches. They need to be long enough to actually fit into both sides of the helmet. So you're going to weld it to one side and have the magnet sitting on the other. So these are pretty good to go. First, we're going to need to decide what side of the magnet do you want on the faceplate and what side do you want on the actual helmet itself. Just a preference, I like to make the thicker part of the magnet of the clasp. I like to leave that on the raft, and then I'll mount the thinner part of the magnet onto the faceplate. And now we need to kind of evaluate how is this going to be coming off. If you think about it, if we put the magnet rafts on the side here, the faceplate wants to go that way. It wants to come off. So when you try to pull the faceplate off, the magnets have that shear force, so you don't want to position them, you know, sitting here, because then when you try to lift the faceplate off, it's going to be fighting. You want them to pull apart. You don't want them to slide or shear. So we don't want to put the magnets here. We want to orient them in such a way that the mask is going to want to come off naturally, so forward. So you really have to evaluate what you're doing, and I'll kind of look inside the helmet And I've done this before, obviously, so I know right off the bat, I'm gonna wanna put the magnets somewhere in the top of the, like between the widow's peak here. So as you lift the faceplate up, it's gonna pop off and the magnet will be sitting here. And then you put the jaw back in and it'll always clip in. So you're gonna basically lift up like that just to get the magnet off. So I know where that's gonna be. So take however much time you need to kind of determine this. So that's where the faceplate's gonna be. And we've already established we're gonna use the more flat parts of the magnets for this. So what's nice about these is these little tabs that are here, I'll actually take them and I'll bend them down just a little, not so they're perfectly flat. Let me see if I can show you guys that. So the tabs are bent down a little bit and they're, you know, I don't want to say a 45-degree angle, but something close to it. And you're gonna heat up your soldering iron. This is why I would use a soldering iron over a 3D pen. And I'm gonna wanna put the magnets somewhere in here. And wherever you put them, just try to mirror it on the other side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay the magnet on there and very carefully, please don't burn yourself because you can very easily burn yourself doing this. I'm gonna hold it in the spot I want and it almost has like a spring to it because of the way I bent those tabs. I'm gonna get my soldering iron nice and hot. And I'm actually gonna push down on the tab, heating it up with the soldering iron. And it's gonna start to melt into the plastic. So I'm gonna do it on this first one. It might take a minute depending on how you're holding it and how much you're pushing, but just don't slip and burn yourself. So it's heating up and I can actually push the tab into the plastic. Now the heat's gonna radiate through the whole magnet. So again, please don't burn yourself. If you need to use a pair of pliers or something to kind of hold it, do that. And you can see in the bottom corner, it already kind of subducted and melted into it. Then I'll go and do basically the same thing to the other side. Now you don't want to melt it too much because you could very easily go through the whole print. I would very much suggest doing this before you paint anything and finalize it. This mask is already painted, so I got to be a little extra careful. So it's melted. So now the magnet's actually melted into there. And then I'll take the iron and the same way we kind of did that plastic welding, I'll actually kind of melt and build up the plastic. Now I'm just going to use the plastic that's around the magnet already. You could go get some extra material again, like a raft or something, and you could burn and melt the plastic to make it even stronger, but I've been doing it like this and it hasn't come off since. And actually I kind of prefer doing it this way because if I ever need to move the magnet out, don't breathe this stuff in, by the way. If I ever need to take the magnet out, all you have to do is heat it back up and pull it out and it'll come right back out. You can fold the plastic, you can add more, you can, you know, add plastic underneath it, but as long as the surface of the top of the magnet is nice and clear, you're fine. Cool. So that one's locked in there, and if you pull on it, it's not gonna come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one. All right, both of them are done. And now you don't really need to worry too much about symmetry. They don't need to be in the exact same spot with the same distance from each corner. It's not that crucial and it'll make more sense why in a minute. So now that we have these in place, now what we need to do is prep our magnets that are gonna be on our rafts. And first thing we're gonna wanna do is actually put the faceplate back on the helmet. And we're gonna wanna tape it into place. So since this is painted and it's still not clear coated, I'm actually going to use some duct tape on the inside to make sure that the faceplate stays exactly where I want it to be. So I've gone ahead real quick and I've substituted the painted helmet for the CG Trader helmet that we're gonna be doing the same thing on, because what I want you guys to be able to see is actually when I line these tabs up with the inside of the helmet. So this helmet I can take apart a little bit better, and this you can actually see inside there. So again, we're gonna wanna tape the mask into place. Okay, so the mask is now taped to the helmet, nice and secure. It's not gonna wobble around. Now we can see in there where our magnets actually are, and now we're gonna make the raft with the other magnet on it. So I actually went real quick and just cut a couple new rafts because I want these ones to be a little bit longer for this helmet. And we're gonna pick one side of the raft. We're gonna actually line up where the tabs are, and we're gonna actually melt some holes through where this is gonna go. And I'll try to align the raft up and the magnet as far to the edge of the raft as possible. So just kind of pop two holes And while they're still warm, you can actually force the magnet through. And now we're going to want to secure this to the raft. And if you bought this kit of clasps, it came with some washers for the other side too. And this is actually how they're supposed to be used. So you throw the washer on the other side, and you're going to bend the tabs down to lock the magnet in place. So now that magnet is locked onto the raft, and this is exactly how you would use it on like fabric or clothes or like a purse or something. And what I like to do is, since the back of these magnets have like a little rivet on the back of them, it's supposed to come through that hole. And what I'll actually do is I'll actually start melting the plastic in there, getting it kind of warm, and then I'll try to push the magnet and flatten it through even more. It just makes a little bit of a better bond, and it gives it almost like a pop rivet feel. And now we have our little magnetic raft. So we're going to make another one of these real quick. Okay, so now we have 2 of our little raft magnet tabs assembled and ready to go. Now, these are already pretty flexible as it is, but we want these to have the shape of the helmet in the spot we're going to put them in. So the reason we mounted the other side of the magnets first, not these, is because what we're going to do now, okay, so we can just in there see that magnet, and it's nice because you can see the color gradient where the black mask is and where the helmet is. So again, be careful with this, and you can use a heat gun. I'm only using a lighter because it's just quicker for this video sake. And if you've never actually melted a raft or any type of 3D print, if you hold just a little bit of flame and heat to it, what can happen is it'll actually kind of reactivate and melt the plastic, and then it'll turn into a much more pliable material. And then if you say hold it at a 90-degree angle, after blowing on it for a little bit, it's now in that exact shape and form, and it'll hold that structure. Even if it bends and moves a little bit, it'll want to go back to that spring. And we're going to take advantage of this little property to make and mold the angle of the bracket. So I'm going to use this one first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to just try to heat this side of the raft. And you can use something to hold this like pliers, but I'm confident with what I'm doing. And I'm going to heat the entire raft up as best I can until it has that kind of, it just starts to droop and fold. You don't want to light it on fire. And while it's still drooping, put it on the magnet, and then you're going to push down. It's going to be a little warm, so be careful. And you're going to push down and try to mold it and hold it to the shape of the helmet. And you could even take a piece of tape and throw it on it real quick to hold it down while it cools. So now the magnet is nice and secure to the other side of the magnet. The raft is molded and melted, and now it's holding the shape to the helmet itself. So we're going to let that one kind of cool down, and then we're going to do the other side real quick. So again, just heat your raft back up. Please be careful. Do not burn yourself. Clip it on. And then this one actually kind of fell into place a lot better. We're still going to throw a piece of tape on it. So now both our tabs are lined up where they need to be, and they're cooling down right now. So now that you guys saw that, I'm going to go through and do this other helmet, and we'll by then these will be cooled down. Okay, so now this helmet has the same tabs, heated, melted, and taped into place. And there's a couple things you can do here. You can try it this way. I've done it a few times. I don't recommend it, but it works for me. And I'll actually, as long as I'm using a softer tape like this, I'll actually just leave the tape on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start burning and melting through the raft and kind of trying to melt it to the actual helmet itself, almost like little stitch rivets. And what this will do, this will help me line up the actual raft back to where it needs to be. And it might even just stay in place when I take this off. All right, cool, so that looks like it worked. Now the reason you want it as flat as possible is, say you were to super glue this and you wanted, you don't want to have to melt it, you could actually just super glue it down. But since we have the soldering iron, we're gonna melt this and actually secure this and bond this to the helmet itself. So I'll do just a couple kind of just nice passes. And again, the same way we were plastic welding, And don't breathe this stuff in. We're gonna fold and morph and melt the plastic into itself to kind of make this one whole thing and bond the raft to the actual helmet. So now that raft is actually melted and fused to the helmet itself. We're gonna go through and do the other one. So we're actually gonna take our tape off and see what our alignment looks like now. Well, that's a good sign. The mask is already staying on the helmet itself. Let's go ahead and throw the jaw back on for dramatic effect. Okay, and it's all together, and let's pull our face mask off. That's it. The tabs stay in place. They have good position, and then we put the mask back on. Perfect. That's it. So I'm gonna go through and do the other one just so it looks a little nicer, and yeah. All right, this helmet's all heated and good. So let's take the tape off of this one and see how our faceplate looks. And verdict is, that's it. Faceplate works, the tabs are in place, everything's secured. And then we just put this back on and it locks perfectly in place. I'm happy, cool. And then depending on how you align the magnets, the faceplate might not pull straight off. What I've noticed is sometimes if you kind of wrap your finger around the side right here and you actually like kind of shift the faceplate that way, it'll pop off a little bit easier, and that's it. So you can even hear it click back in just from the weight of it, the face mask itself. So I'd call that an absolute win. Now, say you don't have those little these little purse clasp magnets, and you want to try to do something to utilize these little neodymium magnets because you just want to save space or something. Now, you can't directly heat these up. And if you start heating up magnets, they will lose their magnetism, and then they're just chunks of metal that you can't do anything with. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can make a pool of plastic in the part itself and then push them down in there. I still wouldn't really recommend that because once it dries, there's nothing securing them in there. But what you could actually do is take a piece of raft material, something like this, heat it up, and then actually fold it around a magnet and trap the magnet inside the raft. Or you could glue the magnet into some part of the helmet and then do the same kind of heating up the raft to warp it trick, heat it up and then drop it onto the raft and actually mold it and press it down. And you'll make like a little cocoon around the magnet itself. And as long as you have some pretty good neodymium magnets, they'll still grab just fine through the plastic. In fact, if you do it with two magnets, so you have the one you made and then you make another, the magnet still works perfectly strong through a couple layers of plastic. So you can use that trick to make special different brackets and stuff if you don't want to use these, self-aligning magnets and you just want to use the tiny little magnets. This is absolutely just fine. This is moving through two layers of plastic. Let's see. Can we get three? Yeah, so that's moving through 3 layers of plastic now, just fine. So you can build this up and you can kind of make however many brackets you want. And then if you ever need to take the magnet out, heat it back up or whichever, and you can get the magnet right back out perfectly fine, untouched and unharmed, and it still has its full magnetism. You can do a lot with extra raft material and just extra wasted prints. There's no need, no need to throw everything out. This method has been working just fine for me, and I think it makes a pretty cool effect for the helmets, just, having that cool little magnetic snap, and you can just pop them on and off just fine. And when you're done with them, you're wearing them, put them right back on. Now again, if you guys want to learn how to make the eyes turn on when you actually clip the faceplate in there and keep the faceplate wireless, that's in another video, so make sure you check that out. I just wanted to make this as a separate video because this can be utilized in so many different areas and aspects, not just the faceplates, but not everything needs to be 3D printed. Sometimes you can get a little crafty and actually build the thing to solve the problem you need. So again, if you guys haven't already, if it's before May 15th, 2020, make sure you enter the contest to win this as a free giveaway. If it's past it, I'm probably doing some type of other giveaway, a helmet or some other prize, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. Again, this is the free Thingiverse file, Mark 85 helmet. If you go to Google, search Thingiverse Mark 85, it's the first one that pops up. There's also a link down below. that does it for this video, guys. Thank you so much again for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. I'm trying to make more videos like this and show you more tips and tricks that I utilize to actually make my suit, and hopefully we can keep these going. I'd really appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, as always, drop a comment down below, message me on Instagram. I'll do what I can to answer it if I didn't answer it in this video. But please be patient. I am working on a lot of tutorials. If it's a pretty common question, I'm probably going to make a video on it. So thanks again for watching, and have a good day.